is totally psyched tonight to bring on the Rex Sikes. And I'm not psyching. He is the author of Life on Your Terms. He's a producer, a director, an author, an amazing human being. And mostly, he is, like, to me, the most amazing philosopher. So a little bit of Rex will do us all some good. So hang tight. Let's see his intro, and he'll be right back on with us. Yay!
Yay! Hi,
Lynn is with us because she and I both know that the whole, I know you because of Lynn. And I said, you know, I'm so happy to know him. He's an amazing human being. She has your book too. We're twinning. And the show is about finding it. And you have found a lot of things. But what Lynn and I want to know is, did you find what you're...
So it's all about owning your behaviors.
And the work that you do when you're training people to help other... I just backed my own glasses up.
That's a great blooper for later. I needed a blooper. I got it now.
Fantastic. Wow. Did that really happen?
Man, you really tossed those fuckers.
How hard is it to find your glasses when you knock your glasses off your face? Because now you can't see.
Man, that was some turn. That was some turn. Whoa.
How many times I lose my glasses and can't see them to find them?
Are you nervous? Did we make you nervous or something?
Yeah. As an example, I just sabotaged myself.
I knew he was going to turn this into an example.
When you don't have an answer, throw your glasses across the room. There you go.
I tried really hard not to sabotage, but things happen. So the point is, and I almost fell off my chair trying to find them. So. I'm only here for your laughing pleasure.
This is the funniest. The reason, not only because I watched that numerous times because it brings me joy, is the fact that you can laugh and this happened. And at first, if you watch that again, you'll see, I was like, oh, he threw his glasses off. He's looking for him. You're gone for quite a while. And then you came back up and you were laughing with us. And that's awesome too. And why would I be surprised that you're able to take a joke, even if the joke is kind of like on you a little bit, and turn it into something really cool? It just made me laugh. And Rex, the fact, now I do kind of have a question. What do you say to people, or what do you think about people who are offended by something that funny happens like that, but they're offended by it? What's your take on that?
You mean somebody watching it is offended, or somebody it happens?
No, like you were in this position of where you threw your glasses off. We were all giggling about it, and you also laughed. But what if the next guy would be ticked off because we're laughing because you threw your glasses, you know?
This is the question I'm asking back. Are you asking about someone laughing at, like people laughed at me, or the fact that I was able to laugh at myself?
Yeah, so I guess it's a two-part question. Both.
Okay. Both parts.
Both.
All right. That's a great question, actually, because life is far too short to go through it too seriously. Because think about it. Everything that happens kind of miraculously happens, even if it's not good.
Yeah.
Is all of the different things that have to come together for something good or bad to happen is just amazing. Now, to this day, I just watched that clip with you again. I think I saw it the other night, because anytime I'm with Lynn, she shows us now. It will be my calling card for the rest of my life. And that's okay, actually. I don't know how I knocked my glasses off. I keep looking to go, how did that happen? But
you want to see the replay?
They were there one moment and then they were gone. So, there's a couple of things. One is, if you can't laugh, then you probably need to more than anything else. I did stand-up comedy when I was a kid, essentially a teenager in Hollywood. And a lot of comics are really, really sad people. Mm-hmm. They have a way of turning their attention to the things that bring humor inside of any situation, almost anything. And people get offended by that nowadays, because they can talk about anything and make it funny. And then people say, well, you shouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I disagree. You should do that. You should take it's not that there aren't things to seriously consider at other times,
Mm-hmm.
but when you laugh, you are actually free. Think about it. When you laugh, you're changing your breathing. And when you change your breathing, when you breathe more, you're more vital and more alive. You're actually, when you laugh, I almost fell off my chair, remember? You're off balance. You're off balance because if you really have a big belly laugh, you're out of control.
Yeah.
And the problem with people is if they always want to maintain control. When, for example, somebody's in a near accident and they're panicking, and they're freaking out. Oftentimes, what will an EMT will have them do is get up and walk them, and they'll walk with them to get the adrenaline released. Because if you're just sitting there with adrenaline, you're bottled up. It's overwhelming. The other thing is that people start to hyperventilate. So what do? They have them breathe into a bag to equalize it. Well, laughter is a form of like hyperventilation. You create more carbon dioxide through laughing, and so your state changes. And what better thing to go through life when you have a problem or a difficulty, but to laugh and have a state change instead of taking it seriously, instead of thinking, wow, this is the end of the world, I'll never get through it. Yeah. If you can laugh, people always say, well, you'll be able to look back and laugh. Well, if you could look back and laugh, why don't you just laugh now? Why don't you?
That's a great point. Yeah, that's so true. So I love to laugh. It feels good, and I like to make other people laugh. And I just think that it's just an amazing thing. But I guess for me, at first I was like, we all have so much respect for you. And so I wanted to laugh, but then I didn't know how well received or not it would be. And I was kind of holding it back, but then the rest of the crowd did. And then you came up laughing and I was like, okay, this is cool. But,
but you make a fine point too, because, if somebody slips and falls and you laugh at them instead of helping them, they would probably get pretty upset.
Yeah. Well, that's not very nice. Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, so you see me and don't know whether it's a cue to laugh, even though you might want to, and other people are laughing, and you go, well, maybe he'd be embarrassed by this. So, and that's good. Yeah. And when you realize that I wasn't embarrassed by it, then you were free to laugh.
Oh man, it was good because you made it more funny because when you came up and you said, and I almost fell off my chair. I was like, this is great. This is so great. And the fact that Len, we caught you on camera. So we're going to pull this up all the time. Give everyone else a little chuckle,
Well, there's an old saying too, back in show business, people like Jimmy Durante, if you know who that is, he had a big nose, so he was always known as the schnoz and made jokes about him, or different comics would make different jokes about their weight or their height or their appearance or something like that, which is not good to do in everyday life necessarily. You don't want to be in the workplace going, I got a big nose or I have big ears or something, because you kind of draw attention to things that could be used to hurt you. But the point is that these people had, there was Ben Turpin who was really cross-eyed. And someone said, I can fix your eyes. We can do surgery to correct your cross. He said, what, and might kill my career?
Because he used that as his.
Yeah, he used it. So, it's kind of like not everything is to our detriment.
Yeah.
It can be a blessing and if you know that, then you can accentuate that. For me to try and hide the fact that I may have knocked off my glasses or fell off a chair would only bring more attention to it than if I go with it. That's another way of thinking of it, right? Yeah. The energy trying to, and this is true about people in lots of things, they try to push down their responses or their emotions, whether they're happy or sad or whatever they may be. And sometimes wisely. If you're raging, like a road rage incident, you probably should push your emotions down or find a healthy
yes, please do. Yeah.
Right, you know what I mean? But in the case of this, there's so much opportunity to just be free, to laugh, to enjoy, and to, and to gather with friends and make merriment is why not? Isn't that what life should be about?
Yeah. So what advice then do you give people who find themselves getting offended and not able to laugh with people.
Lighten up.
Do what?
Say, lighten up.
Lighten up. Yeah. So I mean, it seems like people are so stressed out and so overwhelmed in the workplace and all of these things. And in your book, you do talk a lot about letting go of the stress, living a happy life, and all of these things. But before we get into that, this is a very general question that you probably can't ask very many people, but I feel like I can with you. And after reading your book and getting to know you through Clubhouse and through Lynn and all of these things, I want to ask you what your overall view or overall philosophy of life is.
That's a great question.
I only ask for everything. Can you just give that to me, please?
Yeah, I was 25. I went through a crisis. I talk about it in the book. I've gone through more than one, but that one really was the changing point of my life, where I realized I was headed in one direction and really needed to turn and head in a different direction, and nothing was going to. I mean, kind of like the universe, let's pretend, was conspiring, and I was being pushed this way, with the idea being that this is how it's going to be unless you do something about it. And so when I did something about it and it went this way, everything began to shift. And I had been reading Napoleon Hill since I was a child and doing all sorts of stuff, but I hadn't really figured out how to apply what I was learning. I knew it, kind of like, I know I should do this stuff, but I didn't necessarily always do it. And I'm checking on my dog every now and then. So what happened for me is I got back into meditation. I got back into, applying these principles. Like, I was visualizing and doing affirmations and all this stuff. I'd learned what I now call directed questions while I was locked in my own apartment trying to sort things out. When I got out and I emerged in the world, there came a day when I was meditating. I was in my apartment in Los Angeles on the floor. And I had some very profound experiences at different times. One is I used to stick my head between speakers and listen to like tubular bells and just go off into this kind of nebulous airspace of meditation. And one day I was so overwhelmed. It was as if I heard music for the very first time in my life. It was the most incredible experience, because instead of thinking about hearing the music, I was experiencing the music without any thought. I was the music. And when the meditation was over, I got up, I drove to a friend's house, and I was like, I heard music for the very first time. Of course, they thought I was nuts, but or on drugs or something. But I was like, it was so amazing. It was this incredible experience. I've never experienced anything like this. And everything became rich. Everything, the sky, the birds, the sounds, the noise of Los Angeles became like a symphony in a concert instead of a cacophony of sound, right? And I was just like, wow. And it was thereafter that I was lying in meditation and realized that I was 25 years old. And I thought, at some point while I was there, I thought, I've walked through this world for 25 years. I've been through the most dangerous places in the world, some of the richest places in the world, some of the most beautiful places in the world. And I've been walking on these feet of mine, and I've stubbed my toes, and I've torn my tendons and ligaments in my legs, and I've done all this damage. But I never thought to be grateful for the fact that I could walk, or that my feet carried me. And I just like, thank you, feet. I was like, oh my God. I started to thank my toes and the bones and the cartilage and the skin and the tissue, my ankles. I mean, everything. I just spent all this time thinking about how glad I was that I had feet, because there are people in the world who don't, but I did. And they carried me all this time through good and bad times. Mm. And I went through my entire body. I was there for hours, but you're just thinking everything and anything I could do. Mm-hmm. And then you went into the organs, into the glands, and into the tissues, into the, everything. I mean, I just got as specific as I could. And again, I was like, this explosion of joy and bliss, and I was just, and then it occurred to me that I owned the planet.
Okay, so at this point, you're feeling all of this through the meditation. You've gone through a lot of things through the book and I had read. But at this point, this is all through getting the ball rolling with deep, intense meditation. All of these realizations start coming in. Things look more vivid.
Right.
Sounds and sights and smells and everything is just more rich. And this is all through, I know you said in the book that I think it was a 6-week period that you stayed
in my
kind
apartment.
of like in lockdown because you had gone through a little, issues with drugs because of medication that was given to you from an accident and all of that. So, but during this time, so let's just be clear here with everyone watching.
Right.
This is not any drug induced psychedelic thing. This is you legitimately going into deep meditation and having these realizations.
Yeah. So after I came out of the 6-week lockdown, I'd learned how to direct my brain in a particular way. And it was the beginning of what I now teach. I mean, essentially, and so after that, it wasn't like right away. It wasn't like within weeks or months. I mean, this was like within a year, that these experiences happened. I was absolutely drug-free. In fact, I loathed even the thought of taking any drugs because of what happened to me. And and I'm still pretty much that way. I don't take over-the-counters. I don't take drugs or medicine whenever, I mean, if it's a life-saving measure, I don't tell people not to do that. But I mean, I try and be as drug-free as possible. Yeah. And so afterwards, in learning how to direct my mind, I gained an awesome ability and control over my emotions and my behaviors and began to live life productively. And then as I did that, I began to learn how to let go of that altogether, let go of the mind and meditate and get free. And when I did, I had some pretty extraordinary experiences. I did thousands of hours of isolation tank work, where you get in an isolation tank. I mean, back then it was all kind of, based on John Lilly and I think somewhere in the 80s, John Hurt's movie. Now I don't remember the name of it. Altered States came out, which was kind of a fictitious thing on Center of the Cyclone by John Lilly about states of consciousness through isolation tank work. What I discovered was that I could have incredible states of consciousness through meditation, greater than anything I could ever have on a drug or in an isolation tank or anything. And it woke me up to the fact that, we are this incredible, I like this. I don't like it because it's a trite saying or become a trite saying, but it's like we're spirit, in a rental vehicle. We're spirit beings having human experience or spirits having a human experience kind of thing. And so it sounds kind of corny, but it really is true. We are such infinite, incredible potential and the opportunities within us and the magic within us. When you consider just alone what the subconscious mind does to beat your heart and blink your eyes, all the different simultaneous processes that are going on with the trillions of cells in your body. I mean, all of those are being managed to keep you alive. I mean, this life that we have is so incredibly precious, and we get clouded by what we're thinking. And so instead of going, oh my God, I'm a walking miracle, and I literally was a walking miracle because I should have died taking those drugs, but I didn't. So I was like, well, not only that, but I have a lease on life. But we are walking miracles regardless of the state or condition of our bodies or our minds. There are people who can't walk or don't have feet or, have different issues. You still, if you're alive, you are an expression of a miracle. And to live beneath that is silly. To live as a pauper when you are an emperor, it's kind of like having $100 bill in your pocket and not knowing you've got it. You can't spend it if you don't know it's there.
No. Now that's insightful. And that's a really good thing. That's a great way to help people understand what you're trying to get at too. You're worth so much more than what you probably are aware. Another thing that I enjoyed in the book is when you said, like attracts like. Can you tell me exactly, like attracts like? And I think I have a pretty good idea of where you're going with that. And it's described in the book. Can you tell our audience that? And then Bob Donnell has a really great question I want to ask next. But talk about thanks for being here, everybody. Andrew and Jeffrey and John Downard. Hi, Johnny. So like attracts like.
Well, I mean, it's just a basic principle in the universe. It's one of the laws of physics, essentially. It's kind of like gravity. Gravity doesn't ever repel anything. Gravity pulls towards it based on mass. I mean, so a larger body gets kind of more mass, and I mean, you can go through velocity in the entire physics of it all. But we have a saying, birds of a feather flock together. And it's interesting that between people, in terms of social science, people like people who are similar or who are like them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we tend to, and sadly, again, we tend to fear those people who are unlike us, or who have different colored skin, or live in a different country, or wear different clothing, that kind of thing. But people tend to like people who are like themselves. And people, in fact, I teach neurolinguistic programming and how to get people to do what you want, without begging, pleading, guilt tripping, or nagging. And people tend to say yes to people they like more frequently than they will say no. I mean, you'll say yes to somebody that you don't like if you're coerced into it or must do it. Like, if you're in prison, yes, sir, or in the army, you say yes. But otherwise, if you had the choice between two salespeople, you're going to pick the one that you like most, especially if their offer is as good or better than the other person. In some cases, people will go against, that, and they'll say, well, I got it for nothing with this person. I hated them, but the other person didn't have a good deal, but I would have gone with them. So like attracts like. Well, the same thing is true with our thinking and our feelings. If we don't attract what we want, this is the thing that people miss. I have a saying: if you throw a boomerang out, a boomerang comes back, not a teacup.
Yeah.
Right. What you put out, you get back. So if you put out that you want something, you get wanting back. If you put out that you're nasty and hateful, you get nasty and hateful back.
Yes, Andrew, the law of attraction.
Exactly. Or the law of vibration. What has been the most courageous thing you've done?
I wanted you to answer this for Bob. He has amazing questions. That's what he's known for. So, of course, he has a good one. What has been the most courageous thing you have done, and what skill allowed you to do it?
I would argue that it's the story I tell in my book.
There's a lot of stories in the book.
Well, with the fact that, I was wanting to kill myself and wanting to die, and I decided to turn around and find a way to live life joyously and successfully. And what still allowed me to do that was learning how to direct my mind. I created something called Directed Questions. It's in numerous books under different names. I find it about every year. I find a new book that's using Directed Questions with a different name for it. But it's learning how to direct one's mind, learning how to put. I do this a lot. Dog shit or diamonds, or dog crap and diamonds. You have a choice every moment. What do you want to focus on? If you focus on crap, you're going to get more crap. If you focus on the diamonds, you'll get more diamonds. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get crap when you focus on diamonds. It doesn't mean you're not going to get diamonds when you focus on the crap. But the propensity of what you get is determined by what you focus on. I've for over 40 years said, if you get up in the morning and you decide to look for smiles, you will find significantly more smiles than you will if you decide to look for frowns. Could you find smiles while looking for frowns? Sure, you're bound to find a couple. Could you find frowns while you're looking for smiles? Sure, you're bound to find a couple. But you find what you're looking for.
All right.
You
find it. You find what you're looking for. You got to put it out there, and it's so true. What do you say to people though that maybe aren't educating themselves on? I mean, obviously, we'll tell them to buy your book because there's a lot in here. Buy the book. While I have
it for someone else too.
Buy it for someone else. Give it as a gift. But while I have you here, I would love to have you just give your overview to our audience of, there are a lot of people that don't really understand whether it's the law of attraction or, the limiting beliefs, the I loved your chapter 11 about beliefs and feelings matter. But the fact of the matter is that what you put out comes back like the boomerang. Is there any other insightful tidbits that you can give us to help guide us in the right direction to training our minds?
God, I hope so.
Yeah, tell us.
I hope so.
Love to hear it.
Well, I want to
I
go
have
back.
room for improvement.
I want to go back to what I was saying earlier when you said what was that kind of awakening moment or illuminating moment, and I said when I decided that I owned the planet, it occurred to me one day in meditation that I was here for whatever length of time, whatever duration, and that I had been given the opportunity to stay on the planet as opposed to have ejecting myself from it at one time.
Yeah.
And that if I was the owner of the planet, and I say that this way, I share the planet with a lot of co-owners. It means I don't walk through their property and I don't deny them. We all own the planet. But when I realized that I was the owner of the planet, I was like, because if you whether you believe the Bible or not, the story like of the Garden of Eden was that we were given dominion over the planet. We were given a place, and we were in this garden of paradise. And then because we chose knowledge over life, we were ejected from the garden. And so what that said to me as an allegory was, all this life is going on, and it's a garden and it's paradise. And because I think, I choose knowledge, I choose my thoughts, I choose whatever I'm thinking over the experience of actually living joyously, is why I suffer. I mean, think about it. If for those, you look at those people who are not as mentally agile as some of the rest of us, and you go, well, at least they're happy, right? I mean, you've heard that before, haven't you?
Sure, yeah.
Well, think about that for a second. If you didn't have your daily problems to think about, would you be happier?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I
That
mean,
is a great way of thinking about it, though.
well, why think yourself into problems? Why not just
Right.
have a great life? And that was for me a huge turning point. Every problem, every situation, everything that I used to think was horrible and worthless, I then, again, another trick saying, I began to code as, this is happening for me, not to me. All the people who are nasty and horrible and all that kind of stuff are happening for me, not to me. They're there as a gift to help me awaken and to live life with more celebration. And if you can't celebrate, here's what I learned with meditation more than anything else is, as an early meditator, we'd all get into a meditation hall, and I can't tell you how many countless times, and so we're all doing the old pious kind of meditation, right? And then somebody makes a noise, and someone goes, "Shh, I'm meditating."
Yeah, you're really not.
I mean,
Yeah.
you yell at somebody because they're making noise. If you have to go outside of the city to find peace, when you come back to the city, you'll get agitated again.
Yeah.
The key is to find peace inside the city. It's right wherever you are. Peace inside your thoughts, peace inside your behaviors, peace inside of the things that aren't going well, peace inside of the stuff that seems, insurmountable, because it's all there. It's all good. And you have the opportunity walking on the planet to do it. You get, people say, well, I get to do these things as opposed to I have to do them. Have you heard that?
Oh, I love that. I do. I like that. I think it's a nice
good.
way.
I get to go to work as opposed to I have to go to work, right? Well, I get to have problems too.
Mm-hmm.
I get to have the difficult. I get to have all these different lessons. I get to have all these experiences that I would not otherwise have. Had the crap in my life that happened to me, I don't know that I would be the person that I am today. All of it, you can look back and connect the dots. You can't necessarily look forward and do that. I didn't know where I was going when things were happening, Now I understand at the time that there's a difference too. You attract who you are, not what you want. Because if you attract wanting, if you're wanting something, I want a car. You're what you're saying is, I don't have a car. I don't have a car. I want a car because I don't have a car. So I want a car. I need a car. I don't have a car. So as you're aware of that, what you end up creating, law of attraction, like attracts like, is more of the same wanting.
Mm-hmm.
People go, well, I tried the law of attraction, it didn't work. It's because they're not. You have to change in order to get what it is that you want. You have to be the change. You have to experience it inside yourself. Your atoms have to vibrate at a different rate. You can't be the same person and say, I want this house, and all that's in it, and notice that you don't have it. So the way to get the house is to just live with joy, live with, being delighted, because the higher vibe, the better you feel, the more wonderful you are. Then whether you get the house or not doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But in that way, when you're vibing high, you start attracting all sorts of good things to you. And if at the same time you're thinking, wow, I got this great new house and I'm loving living in it and I'm grateful for all these wonderful things, then you're kind of telling the universe, but not just the universe, your brain. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand. You are the universe. There is not a universe that's separate from you. When the Big Bang happened, we're all part of it. That's why we say we're all made from the same stardust. You're as much the universe as the universe.
Yeah.
And people go, well, but I'm this, and the universe doesn't want me to have that, or I'm this. It's all BS. It's all BS. Your subconscious mind is as much as cosmic consciousness or God as anything else is. You are a miracle. We are miracles, thinking that we aren't, because we've been conditioned, which is part of evolution, but we've been conditioned to think otherwise. Which, if you believe the Hindu version of this, we are all gods who are playing hide and seek on ourselves. And we become these human beings and given amnesia that we are gods, for which we get to rediscover and wake up to the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm God. And when you do, you go home. And so that's this. But guess what? They have all these wonderful words like moksha and illusion and lila and play. It's the dance. It's the dance of consciousness. It's play. So how better to go through the life that you're living, whether you live one life or whether you live countless lives, because energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So who knows how that manifests. But the point is, whether you live one or many, make it count. Have fun.
Make it count and have fun and know how to laugh. And speaking of, when you bring up manifestations, manifesting and all of that, which goes in alignment with all the other things that you've been leading up to and saying, it's what you think and what you put out there is what you get back. Yeah. And so with meditation, manifesting and all of that, can you touch on that and your thoughts on manifesting and how you perceive that and advise other people to do?
Well, you're God. You are the universe. You manifest exactly who you are. What you are right this moment determines what you experience in the next moment. What you are right now determines what you get a year from now. And that's why I said, if you're focused on wanting and knowing that you don't have, think of it like this way. Here's one side of, like two ledges and then a valley in between, right? If you're here wanting to be there and there's a gulf between you, you notice the gap. If you're focused on the gap, you're not going to get to the other side. You have to become the other side, essentially. You have to live as if you're on the other side, as if there is no gap.
Right.
And that's not how we're taught in this country or in many places around the world. We're taught we have to struggle and fight and work hard and do all these things and take massive action. And you know what? The laws of the universe are actually laws of conservation, the laws of least effort. The universe doesn't do anything with massive action. It doesn't struggle to make a flower grow. It doesn't struggle to have an earthquake. It does what it does. It just happens. And it does it with the least amount of effort or energy possible. Your brain, by the way, our brain.
Hey, Doug.
Your brain, by the way, it runs on the law of conservation, least effort. It's called streamlining. That's why we lay down neural pathways and develop habits, which we later get to hate. I always do things that I don't like, and I'm do this, and I'm sabotaging. But we go through all this corny psychological BS that we've learned.
Yeah.
Because somebody put it in a book, and and we live as if it's gospel, and it's a description. All of science is a description of what's going on. It's not truth. It's a description. It's the best description we have. And good science understands that you need to update the descriptions as new updates come in.
Sure.
And not so good science says, oh, we weren't going to go there because, we're making a lot of money doing it this way or whatever the reason is, or it's.
Yeah, well, I can believe that.
So the point is that your brain works by doing things by stereotyping. We don't like that word when it comes to racial stereotyping or gender stereotyping because it's a bad thing. But it really is a good thing because it stereotypes doors, for example, so that you're able to recognize doors and, for the most part, utilize every door you see without having to relearn it every time.
Right.
Think about that. That's designed so that you don't have to spend time relearning to do something like sit on a chair, use a fork. I mean, think of how much effort you would have to go through if every time you wanted to eat, you had to relearn how to eat.
Right.
But you don't. And very few people appreciate this. You know, they don't go, wow, I learned to eat.
You guys, I told you, Rex is deep.
But think about it. You learn to have the problems that you have, and that means that you can learn to unhave those problems. They're just habits. They're wired in neural pathways. You know, the Hebb's law says neurons that fire together wire together. So things get paired, and they get laid down, and then your brain only does two things really. It's designed to keep you alive, to have you recognize threats so that you can avoid them, and have you recreate to perpetuate the human species. I mean, that, to keep you alive and to thrive. And what happens for people is they get into comfort zones. They learn these habits. They get conditioned. We can't help that. We're all conditioned. We're all born and grow up through human, experience. And so we adopt and adapt and absorb like a sponge the feelings and fears and hopes and dreams and lies and BS and limiting beliefs and everything of the people around us. And then we're also trained in those. People tell us what to think at a certain age. Money doesn't grow on trees, young man. That kind of stuff, or young lady, and so we get conditioned, and then we forget, just like bad science, that it's a description of what's going on and not the truth, because they seems to be the truth because it's so close to us, because it's now a neurological habit. The brain is just perpetuating it because it's the easiest thing for the brain to do. It takes least effort.
Yeah, so it takes so much effort once you're conditioned or you have these habits to, is it the right terminology, just to relearn or to break
It doesn't take more energy. What it does is it takes the same amount of energy you did when you originally learned it. The difference is that now that you're an adult as opposed to a baby or a toddler or a child, is you have to consciously make the decision to do it. So it's the same thing as if you wanted to have the body of a sculpted bodybuilder. There's certain things that you would have to do. First, you have to make a decision that that's what you want. You have to have the mindset that says, I want that. Okay, I'm going to do that is the other one, because you can want it and never do it. I want to be, I want to be a millionaire and then never do anything. I want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger and then never do anything. I mean, there are people who do that. I know what I should do. I just never do it.
Right.
There are them. So you have to make
a lot of people out there wanting stuff, but not taking action I get it. Yeah.
So you have to make the decision, and then you have to follow through on it. You have to say, okay, I'm going to do that. So if you wanted the body of a sculpted weightlifter, say, bodybuilder, you'd have to eat right, sleep right, and exercise the right amount. You have to do it consistently over time until you got the results that you wanted. And some people don't know when to stop, obviously, but and keep going. But the point is that that's what you would do. And you don't have to take massive effort. This is where the thought leaders of today, massive action, is all BS, because that's not how your brain works. It's doing the things that work, tiny little steps, like drop by drop, the tub will fill. You don't eat your meal by shoving it all into your face. You take it bite by bite. Well, hopefully.
You don't?
you do it bite by bite. To get from here to across the room, you have to take steps. If you take the steps in the right direction consistently for long enough, you eventually get there.
Yes, you do.
But people think, well, I have to 10 times my this. I have to 100 times. I want it so badly. And that's because the very same people who are there supposedly to help you are making you feel bad by comparing yourself against other people who have pets and homes and cars and money and this and that. And your business is doing this. I made $50 million in 2 seconds on my first day of business after I did that. I mean, come on, Yeah.
Comparison is awful. I mean, when you compare yourself to other people, and we each have our own journey. What are when you say, are you a builder? or are you a destroyer? I mean, I understand. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I'm a little of both, but I consider myself a builder. I mean, in other
Yeah.
words, if the foundation is there
Yeah.
and it's weak and you're going to build there, you're going to have to take that foundation down.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what you want to build, what difference does it make? I can tear down a foundation, but if I don't have a replacement plan, then what? So, an architect is one who can hallucinate a building where none exists and hallucinate the plumbing and the wiring and where the lights and the sconces go and where the outlets are and all the different floors. And then put it on paper. And then if they're successful, work for somebody, they then gather their resources, their money, and their building materials and their team, and then they build it. And then suddenly there's a building where one didn't exist before because somebody had the idea of it. So it's a matter of, if you don't know what to build, you don't know what you want to build. You're not.
And it's so funny that this Bob Donnell is saying next level pillar comparison is a fast track to misery. But today he also said on the Joe Ingram show, Bob said, there's criteria that you need to have in order when you build relationships with someone. If you want to really connect with someone, there's criteria that you need to know what your like non-negotiables are, like what you really want to be, what you want. You want someone that's open-minded. So you got to know what questions to ask. But like you said, if you don't know what you want to build, how are you going to build something? And that was kind of like, I don't know, parallel to what he was saying.
No, I mean,
what you want, how are you going to connect with someone?
No, the point is valid. Two things in my program, how to get people to do what you want. I often talk about asking people what's important to them, just what's important to you. If you and your husband or spouse or significant other or boyfriend or girlfriend or life partner, whomever it is, want to go on a vacation, it would be beneficial to say, what's important to you about this vacation? Like, we were going to go to Tahiti, because one person's idea of a vacation is another person's nightmare in some cases.
Right.
And so one person says, I just want to go, I want to relax, I want to unplug the phone, so I want to sip, out of a coconut, and be in the hammock. And the other person goes, I want to hot cha and dance and party. I want to get out, live the hot life. I want to go see everything there is to see. And then they get there, not having talked about it, what's important to them. And then they're mad at each other during the vacation because they're not fulfilling each other's needs. But if you thought about it in advance, you say, okay, well, let's do this. Let's negotiate this out. Do you want to go out the first night, or do you want to relax the first night? Let's then we know where we are, and you continue to kind of negotiate that. Or you want to go out on Tuesday night, go out and have a blast by yourself. I'd like to stay home. Is that okay? And then on Wednesday night, I'll go out with you, and then on Thursday you can stay in with me. I mean, you can build that because you negotiate it out. The other thing is a lot of people are really good at knowing what they don't want, but they aren't so good at knowing what they do want. So they know what they,
That is really true.
I don't want a person who's fat or ugly or mean or nasty. I don't want somebody who smokes or doesn't take care of themselves. I don't want somebody who's concerned with wealth and riches. I don't want somebody who's this or that. I don't want a black person. I don't want a white person. Instead of saying, I want somebody who would treat me really nicely, that I can treat really nicely. I want somebody to love and care for me the way I want to love and care for them. I want to have a really wonderful relationship where we can just rest inside of each other and trust each other and grow together and do all sorts of wonderful things. I mean, in other words, you have to be, at some point, knowing what you don't want can be the basis for discovering what you do want. If you say, I don't want somebody that smokes, then the question becomes okay, what do you want instead?
Yeah.
If I don't want somebody who's 6 feet tall, what do you want instead?
Right.
But again, and I wouldn't be too specific in some of these things, like I want somebody who's 6'4". You can get that, but if that's the main thing that you're looking for, you watch out, because you
you may get 6'4" full of something.
Boy, really my dreams, all right, but they were nightmares. But
yeah, exactly. Well, you brought it all together, everything that you were talking about, because even in relationships, so we talk about ourselves and what we want for ourselves and what we want or what we don't want, and then you got to put out there the positive energy and the high vibe that we really want back. You were saying you spew out negativity, you're going to get negativity back. all of these things, and relationships as well. It's you brought it all like full circle, Rex. It's great.
Dog crap or diamonds. What you focus on is what you get. What you focus on is what you are feeling at the moment, what you're vibing at. And if what you're vibing at is a problem or crap or low vibe, negative, sucky feelings, I'm not worth anything. I feel bad. The world is a horrible place. That kind of stuff. That's what you're going to get back.
Yeah.
So you have to adjust your attitude. This is why I created the attitude activator. You have to get into attitude is the number one predictor for success in all areas of your life. And I mean, this is just phenomenal to know, because what is your attitude? Is what is a belief? A belief is the thoughts that you think over and over again. And what is an attitude? It's based on your belief. You're either I can person or an I can't person. You're either an I can and I will person, or I can't and I won't person. Or you're somebody who goes, well, I know what I should do, but I just don't do any of it. Attitude is everything. And there's all these like cliches, it's a little thing that makes a big difference, and altitude determines your attitude, or attitude determines your altitude.
Yeah.
Because it does. If you wake up in the morning and you got a fabulous attitude and you go, let me at it, go out and have fun.
I'm going to conquer the day.
Yeah. I was sitting with a woman friend of mine, a beautiful, beautiful person. And I said, there was a time in my life when I felt, okay, I am a champion. I am the emperor. It's I had the kind of like Game of Thrones idea of being a victor, because you're either a victor or a victim, right? And so I'm like, you think you can throw the shit at me? Bring it on. Kind of like those gladiators say, well, bring me your best swordsman. I will be victorious. I don't want, it's like chess players. They don't want the worst chess player. They want the best chess player against, right? I want the best swordsman. I should prove that I'm the champion. So I'm like, you think you're a tough god? Bring it on. Someone looked at me one day and said, why would you ever say that? Because I can handle it. She goes, but why wouldn't you say, bring me all the good stuff? I went, point.
There you go.
Point.
Yeah.
And that is true. I mean, if you get up in the morning and you go, wow, how much fun am I going to have today? And who can I put a smile on their face? And how much delight can I spread? And how many good things are going to happen to me? And you go into the world that way, with that attitude that, hey, the world is my oyster. This is what I said when I said I own the planet. I realized that if I was here for a single lifetime, I was going to party. This was my playground. This was the Garden of Eden. This was paradise. And if I didn't recognize it, it was because I had that knowledge. I had those thoughts that prevented me from seeing.
I was kind of laughing when you were saying I own the planet. And I was like, if someone comes on right now, they're going to be like, that doesn't look like Mr. Musk. He's not on, is he? But you know what? It's so true. I need to ask you this. Do you go through during your day, we're human beings, right? So you have such an amazing philosophy on life, and you're very positive. But because I know you're also human, I know you have to have days where the crap comes, right? You got the diamond, the crap's coming in. Do you catch yourself and you're thinking, oh, it's getting me down, and then you switch it? How do you handle things like that in your own day?
That is part of the process. Eventually, I mean, eventually you get good at it. You develop a new habit so that, it's kind of this way. Let me try and explain it. You're driving along and somebody gives you the finger, and your first response is to your first reaction, you give them the finger back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or something happens and you give them the finger and they give you the finger back. Right? And you decide at some point, I don't want to live like that, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have to train yourself that when they give you the finger to not do it. And there are going to be times when you do it and times when you do it. But eventually you're going to get to the point where you can look at it and you may have to reframe. Well, they're having a bad day, or they're in a hurry, or, whatever. But you do that enough, and eventually you get where you get control of the mechanism so that you're not Pavlov's dog. The second somebody rings the bell with a finger, you go, So you learn how to do the same thing with your problems. You end up with a different attitude and a different behavioral response to what would have been a difficulty for you in the past. Now becomes an opportunity to explore things differently and to live differently. And so, I mean, sure, there are things that come up. I always say, I didn't always live the life of my dreams, but now I do. I own my time. I do what I want, where I want, when I want, with whom I want, that kind of thing. But people think that means that there's nothing that's ever hurled at me,
Oh, and I mean, you guys have to read the book because it's a whole you guys just won't believe what he's gone through and how he changed his life around and all the things that you've done. It's just so admirable. And
Right.
the fact of the matter is too, a lot of the things that you've discussed in Clubhouse, I've taken through my day and I've really practiced it because when you were talking about giving the finger in a car, I mean, I don't really ever flip anyone off, but I get angry sometimes when someone has a response to me. Then I'm like, well, what? And it'll bother me and I'll get angry about it. And I'm not really doing that anymore. I found and it's surprising because I'll be like, no, I'm not going to allow that to upset me. Why would I? And in other aspects of life too, not just road rage, but just it's okay. I'm not going to get all worked up about it.
Well, I tend to think of myself as, as a Facebook troll.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I'm saying,
Facebook troll right here.
what I mean is that so many people get upset by so many things, especially in social media. Somebody says, I like the color blue, and they go, blue, why would you like, and I didn't mean that as a political, let's say the color green. I like green. And they go, green, why would you like green? What's the good like about green? And they get into fights over things that are really right. And I sometimes do bait people, and I don't bait them to make them feel bad. I'm just trying to provoke thinking, or to say, hey, can we explore it differently? I'm not always polite. I mean, I'm not always trying to be really nice. I mean, I sometimes I go, well, only an idiot would think like that. But the point is that, and then they have a choice, to either go, he's calling me an idiot, which I don't think I did. I didn't say you're an idiot. I said an idiot would think that. But if you want to wear it, go ahead.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's an opportunity to have an exchange and to go further. And if it's always going to be in the same area, I'm going to test those waters and then say, okay. But if it bothered me, that's a different thing. And I'm not trying to be a troll. I'm not trying to aggravate people. I'm not trying to do any of that. My goal is actually to help people to just be nicer and kinder and love more, and to wake up to the possibilities. And I mean, I've been doing this stuff for over 40 years, and some of the same people 40 years ago have heard me say this, and 40 years later they're going, yep, and they do nothing about it. I mean, that's just the way some people are.
And it is. And whether it's with losing weight or stop smoking or anything in life where the tools are there, what to do, you're just not doing it. I totally understand what you're saying. Not taking action.
But here's the thing. You're not going to take action if your attitude and your mindset isn't correct. When your attitude is correct, your mindset is right. And by right, I don't mean good or right or wrong. I mean, when it's good, when it's doing what it's supposed to do, then you feel the way you're supposed to feel. Then the action you take is the result of the mindset and the feelings. And so you take what we'd call inspired action. You do those things in your own best interest because you're completely aligned. If you're saying, I should do that, but I really don't want to do that, then you're never going to do it.
There you go. That's the difference, right? If you really wanted it, you would.
Well, but it's not just the wanting it. I mean, that's part of it. But it's having the mindset that not only do I want it, but I am going to do it.
You're in alignment with your.
Muhammad Ali said this about training as an Olympic boxer, being a world-class athlete. So he said, I hated to train. I didn't want to get up and run behind a car on a cold day and do all the stuff I had to do. But I knew that if I wanted to be a world champion boxer, I had to train. So he never let that feeling of not wanting to do it or his thoughts of not wanting to do it prevent him from doing what he needed to do in order to become the kind of champion he wanted to become. And Henry Ford said it the best. He said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're correct. A beautiful statement.
I love that quote.
My most favorite quotes in the world because it's so true. If you think you can and you think you will, that's a whole nother thing. Because you can think you can and not do it. But you can think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right.
But he said something to me that's even more profound. Well, he didn't say it to me personally because I was, and that is, I never let what I cannot do prevent me from doing what I can.
Well, that's beautiful.
I love that.
That's really good. Say it again. I like this repeat.
Never let what I cannot do prevent me from doing what I can.
Yeah.
And people tend to focus on what they can't do or why they can't do it or the reasons they can't do it or what's wrong or I'm sabotaging myself or the excuses and the whines and the blames and whatever, instead of focusing on doing it and getting it done. But it comes from getting it right here. Because if it's not right between the ears, if your attitude isn't right, that's why I did the attitude activator. If your attitude isn't right, you're not, the chain isn't going to happen. You're not going to go from this step to that step to that step and get it done. You're going to, when your attitude is right, you're acting with the least resistance. You're doing it with the least amount of effort. You don't have to take massive action. I mean, consider this for a second. People say you got to take massive action. Your car gets stuck in the mud. Sometimes you have to choose a little more energy to get it out, because if you're stuck in the mud, your tires are spinning, it's not making appropriate contact. You have to get in there. You can rock the car and nothing happens. You're not going anywhere. No matter how much you try, you're not getting anywhere. So you have to take a little extra action to get out. Once you get the car out of the mud, you don't have to keep taking the action that you used to get out of the mud. In fact, if you put your car in neutral on a flat surface, you can pretty much push your car along. And physics, law of gravity and inertia and all those kinds of things will take care of itself. That all you have to do is continue every now and then to give a tiny little push.
Mm-hmm.
And the car will have its own momentum and travel on its own.
Yeah.
Unless acted on by a larger outside force.
Yeah.
Or you encounter a hill, which would be a larger outside force. So the point is that you can do it with least effort.
Yeah.
If your attitude is correct, and that's what the book is about. And by the way, if they get the book, they should go to rexsikes.com/book. I don't know if you have that anywhere, but my name is there on my picture. It says rexsikes.com, put a /book. I will give people who buy the book, softcover or hardcover from Amazon, a bonus training. It's $497 training on the mastery loop, which is how we master our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, and our skills to get the kind of results that we want. I'll give it as a complete bonus. It's an online training that you have access to.
That is so cool. Who knew that they were going to find a bargain? Woo! That's what I'm talking about. We're finding deals up in here. That's awesome.
I've been teaching Mastery Loop for 30 or 40 years, and it's how we approach information, how we use our whole brain and our body to learn and acquire, as we did when we were a child. Because when we were a kid, we learned more than we ever learned as an adult, because as an adult, we think it's all in books. As a kid, we got out and we rolled around in the mud and we played and we explored and we giggled and laughed and we had the experience of learning. Now it's all become pretty much cerebral. And you know what? I'm a public speaker. And so for the public speakers out there watching this, and I do trainers training and presentation skills for people that, teach speakers. You go into a room full of people and you stand up in front of them, you go, "Hi, everybody, how you doing?" Right? And you see these people looking like, and others are like, and as you're talking, you're going, "You can do anything," and they're like, that's how they learn. They're not going, "You're full of crap." I mean, there might be one of those in there, but that's how they learned. They sat in school, in their grade schools, going, "Math?"
I want to read this from JJ. Understanding you can't change, per se, an opinion. How do you suggest offering a challenge to those around you to have this open, constructive mindset?
You have to make them think it's their idea. If you tell them that it's your idea that they need to adopt, they're going to refuse it. But if you can get them to imagine it, how they could view it from their perspective, and it's a little more than we have time to go into right now, but it's a wonderful question. I talk about that and how to get people to do what you want, which, again, all this stuff is at rexsikes.com. But I do talk about it in the program, is that you need them to feel like it's their idea. And that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So,
and how you do that is a whole other show. So they're going to have to check you out on.
Okay, it is. But I mean, ultimately, you do it by aligning with them. You do it by not creating friction with them, by agreeing with them. You say, that's great. And I agree. And, whenever the word "but" tends to, well, that's true, but then people are going, "Whoa."
Yeah, that's a turnoff.
Right.
when someone's trying to explain something, or you give your opinion, and then someone says, "Oh yeah, but I get what you're saying," but that's kind of like people will tune you out, right?
So think of it this way: if I said to you, because people do this, they go, "You want to go to a movie?" And you go, "I'd like to, but I can't afford it." What's the last thing left in their mind?
That you don't. I would think you just don't want to go.
Right, but I mean, the last thing they're thinking of is you can't
Can't
afford it.
afford it. Yeah.
So you say, "Oh, you can't afford it, but you'd really like to go." And now let's figure out how we can get you there, and let's think about all the fun we could have. In other words, the last thing in their head is, "Oh, I do really want to go," and
Right.
you,
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
diminish the "I can't afford it,"
Uh-huh.
because that's the big thing in their head. I can't afford it. I
Uh-huh.
want to go, but I can't afford it. Now you're saying, "Oh, you can't afford it, but you really want to go." Now, again, remember how I'm saying it is part of it. If I said, "Oh, you can't afford it, but you really want to go," it's not going to register. It's
No.
like, "I want to go, but I can't afford it." Oh, you want to go, but you can't afford it, but you really want to go. You have to kind of be it too. Oh, you can't afford it. Like, well, that's insignificant. Oh, you can't afford it, but you really want to go. Okay, so let's figure out how we
Let's
can do
figure it out. Let's go. Yeah, that's
Let's make
awesome.
it happen. So there are ways to do that. That was a great question, and then there's
JJ's an awesome human being too. You would love him, as
Oh.
I do. But I wanted to find out. So you do a lot of things, and I want to know what your. I know you have a show, a movie, or something coming out on Father's Day this year. Could you tell me a little bit about that and some other things you have
can't
going
tell
on?
you. Yeah, nope, no.
It's top secret. We got to wait for it to come out.
Bet,
Aw.
JJ, thank you. It's called Shooting Star. It's directed by a guy named Michael Pfeiffer, and it was produced and by Peter Schraiko and Michael Pfeiffer. And I haven't seen the movie yet, but I know the story.
Mhm.
And it's set in the Old West,
Mhm.
and it's about a young girl and a father and his two young daughters, and one of them is injured, severely injured.
Oh.
And there's a horse riding sharpshooting competition coming up. And young Star, that's her name, is a good horse rider and a good sharpshooter. And so she wants to enter this competition in order to raise money for the medical needs of her sister. And there's a corrupt sheriff and a corrupt mayor who are trying to take the money, these funds, and get it from this. And I'm the town agitator who stands up against the sheriff and the mayor and opposes them and tells them that they're evildoers, essentially.
And that will be released on Father's Day this year. Do you know what?
I don't know how. I don't know how yet. Whether it's in theaters, or I understood it was supposed to be in theaters, but it seems like you would know that by now. But I don't know if it's in theaters or streaming or on demand or in a Walmart bin. I don't have.
Okay, well, we'll have to look for it, and when it releases, I want to share it with our crowd here because I'm sure they'll want to check it out. Anything else you have going on right now? I mean, you have.
Well, I do the All Things Rex show, so I do that for the Los Angeles Tribune. I've got the movie. COVID kind of shut down the whole acting thing for a while, so that may change, now. Is it one of those Hallmark flips that will make you go,
Well, if it is, I'll be tuning in for sure.
I'm going to guess that it's probably like that, Andrew. Yeah, I'm going to guess that it's like that. Michael does a lot. I think Michael does a lot of stuff for Hallmark. So you
really? Is that real? Or are you just joking?
No,
for real. Okay, because I love Hallmark movies.
He's done like 200 movies or something as a director producer. I mean, he's quite prolific, and a lot of them are, things that you would see on Hallmark or Lifetime or whatever. And I don't have cable. I cut the cable a long time ago. So for me, I just see them if they come on Netflix or Hulu or on,
Sure.
Prime or whatever. But yeah, it could. And if you cry in the right spots, Andrew, that would be the kind of a good
We
movie.
will. That's amazing. I wanted to I wanted to ask you, and I mean, we've been on here for a little bit more than an hour, and I don't know how the time flew. I'm just always engulfed in your wisdom. It's amazing to me, because you've taken the meditation and life lessons and all the things that you've read, and you're so creative, and you're also so worldly and all of these things, and you put it into action, and you are kind, and you are all of these things. How do you want to be remembered?
Wow. I got as a guy who walked his talk.
Wow. You know what's so fun is that I was waiting for some more like something, but that is that, I was ready for you to be, but that is enough said. You want to be remembered as the guy that walked the walk, talked the talk.
Yeah.
And you definitely do, Rex. Oh, I know. I see Lynn clapping in the back. You do. You're the real deal. I'm so blessed to know you. And I'm so thankful that you came on the show to share your wisdom and your philosophy and promoting the book. It's incredible.
I have my glasses off.
And we gotta show the funny reel of you dropping. Yeah, you gotta. That was funny.
I did that just for you again, but you missed it.
Yeah, I was just. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. I just loved it so much. So, and it, the dramatic eyeglass throw here.
I figured out how to do it now on command. I just do it that way.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
You're like, it's just a little distraction. I'm thinking about my answer. I love it. So anyway, thank you so much for being here and taking time to be with us.
Thank you.
And I just am so grateful. And before we leave, let's just tell everybody tomorrow, do us one little favor. And when you get up out of bed, or even before you get up out of bed, don't grab your phone. Think about what you're grateful for. Say it's going to be a great day, and keep telling yourself that throughout the day. And remember Rex while you do it. And I bet you your day will be a whole lot better. Right?
Debbie, I want to say this to you. I was there for your first show, and I've watched other shows since, and you are an amazing and marvelous and wonderful host.
Thank
you. I've been able to be with Lynn, and she's awesome and incredible too. And so you're like the dynamic duo. And although of equals, you're both Batman. And
yeah, because I didn't want to be Robin.
Right, I know. No, but you're both of them. So I really do appreciate this, and I really thank you for the opportunity. And it's been a wonderful time getting to chat with you here on the show, and to see the wonderful people that you have show up in the comments and questions that we got today. I would invite people to do that also before they go to bed at night.
Good idea.
Because a lot of people, what they do is they look back on their day and think of what's wrong and what they need to do and how they have to fix it and that kind of stuff. Go to bed with your best thoughts and feelings, and do that, and then you wake up with your best thoughts and feelings.
Oh, I love that. And we can do this.
Oh yeah,
we can do this. So thank you for everything, and I want to have you back on and
sure
talk again, and it's just so inspiring. So much love to you. Mwah.
Mwah.
And don't forget, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. and next week I want to shout this out right now, because next week we have a double feature, so to speak. At 4 p.m. we're going to have the Jim Tressel on. He is one of the most beloved Ohio State head coaches of all time, in my opinion. And he will be on at 4. And then at 8 o'clock, we'll have Dr. Brian Cohen on. So June 1st, next Wednesday, is going to be a big day for Find It. We're going to find out a whole lot of stuff. So join us again this time, where we're going to find it together. And once again, the great Rex Steven Sikes, love and peace to you. And let's do the outro, Lynn.